for today's video, I'm going to be talking about indirect object pronouns, and Jordan is also going to put out a video about direct object pronouns, and both go hand in hand. So I'll explain what indirect object pronouns are, when to use them, and how to use them in Spanish. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about indirect object pronouns, or else you might hear them as IDOPs. So indirect object pronouns, just in English, stand for when you say to him. So, for example, if I'm saying I gave the ball to him, the indirect object is the to him part. It's who you're giving the direct object to. And like I said before, Jordan's going to go into direct object pronouns, and direct object pronouns stand for what. Indirect, the video I'm focusing on, stands for who. So here are the indirect object pronouns, and they are me, te, le, nos, os, les. And what I put in red is like what the indirect object pronoun stands for. So if I'm saying I gave the ball to him, then you would use le as the indirect object pronoun because him goes with el. So that's what I put in red, the subject that the indirect object pronoun fits with. Okay, so here's an example. They sing us the song. So sing is the verb, and us is the indirect object pronoun. And I think I've mentioned a couple of times now, but the song is what Jordan's going over, which is the direct object pronoun. But we can just ignore that for right now. So, as I said before, us is the indirect object pronoun. And since us in Spanish is nosotros, we know the indirect object pronoun we use in Spanish is nos. And as you can see, in Spanish, it is done a bit differently, as the nos goes before the verb. So it goes, ellos nos canta la canción. They sing the song to us. And you can also add, the a nosotros afterwards to clarify, but you do not need it. So I'll go over how to set it up and another example so it's more clear. So here's kind of the sentence frame. So you first would start out with your subject. For example, yo. Then if you are saying I do not do something, or if you need the no, then the no would go next. But that's not always needed. Next would be the IDOP. So that could be something like te. Then you need the dop, which, as I said, Jordan will go over, but that can be something like lo. And then you have the verb, which is just any conjugated verb, which could be doy in this case. And the conjugated verb will fit the original subject, and the IDOP will fit the indirect object pronoun, so the who, and the dop will fit the what. So for example, right now this sentence says, I gave you it. And it's saying that because we have the indirect object pronoun, which tells me the who, which in this case is you, shown by the te. Then it is shown by lo, which is the dop. And then yo, doy, that's just I give. So this sentence reads, I give you it. Also, if you put the no in, then it would be, I do not give you it. And that no would fit in right here. So this English sentence can actually be used for the example above. Yo te lo doy. So, for example, in Spanish, this would be yo doy un regalo a tú. Sorry. Two. So this is saying I give a gift to you. So if you wanted to say that in shorter terms, like I gave it to you, or I gave you a gift, instead of like I gave a gift to you, then you could say yo te doy un regalo. So now this sentence reads a little bit easier because instead of like finishing with the a tú, you're saying yo te doy un regalo. Like you're just saying it right away. I gave you a gift. So to signify, the te fills in for the a tú part and is the indirect object pronoun. And then also the a gift, which signifies the un regalo, could be a direct object pronoun, and that's where you'd write the yo te lo doy. But as of right now, like I said, we're just focusing on indirect object pronouns. So here's another really similar example. I give you the money. So I give is the verb, and you is the indirect object pronoun. So translating this, you'd write yo te doy el dinero, a ti. And so you do not need that a ti part, and you can just simply say yo te doy. And the te is the indirect object pronoun signifying you. So here's an example, another one. She writes you the letter. And so in this case, you is the IDOP, the indirect object pronoun, and the letter is the DOP. And she is the subject, and writes is the verb. So to write this in Spanish, we would write ella te escribe una carta. And so the te stands for the IDOP and stands for saying you. And then una carta you can just write normally, or if you wanted, you could make that into a direct object pronoun and say she writes it. But in this case, the sentence that we have written right here would translate she writes you a letter. And the te, the indirect object pronoun, stands for the you. Okay, so here are 3 examples, and try to translate them to the best of your ability. So the first example is my dad buys me a new car. So think about what the indirect object pronoun is and where you put the indirect object pronoun. The next example is your mom tells you many stories. And the third is your boss offers us a vacation. So feel free to pause the video and I'll show you the answers. Okay, so here's the answer for the first one. And it's mi padre me compra un coche nuevo. So the my dad buys is mi padre compra. And then the indirect object pronoun is the me, which stands for he buys me a new car. And so this is the direct object pronoun, and then this is the verb, and then this is the subject. So as you can see, it usually it goes subject, indirect object, verb, and then the thing or the what. But in the case that if you do make the what, un coche nuevo, into lo, which is the direct object pronoun, it would go right in between the indirect object pronoun and the verb. But in this example, since I'm just focusing on indirect object pronouns, it would go mi padre me compra. The me, being the indirect object, falls in between the verb and the subject. So the second example is your mom tells you many stories, and the translation would be tu madre te cuenta muchos cuentos. And so in this case, the subject is your mom, tu madre. Te would be the indirect object, which stands for you. And then cuenta would be tells, which is the verb. And then muchos cuentos would be the direct object pronoun, but it's just left normal. So your mother or your mom tells you many stories. Tu madre te cuenta. So the last example is our boss offers us a vacation. So the translation for that, when you put in the indirect object pronoun, would be nuestro jefe nos ofrece una vacación. So the subject is nuestro jefe, which means our boss. Offers is the verb and falls right here because, as mentioned before, the indirect object pronoun us or nos falls in between. And then una vacación is a vacation, which is the direct object pronoun. Okay, so here's the basic setup. So it goes the subject, then the indirect object, and then the direct object can fall in between. And then you have the verb last. So an example of a subject is just like I, her. So in Spanish, yo, tú, él, usted, nosotros, ellos. That's what the subject is. Then the indirect object pronoun, as I mentioned before, are me, te, les, nos, os, les. And sorry, I mean me, te, le, nos, os, les. And then the direct object pronoun is what Jordan went over, and then the verb can be any verb, such as to talk, to give, something of that matter. So here's the basic setup, and these are the indirect object pronouns that you should know. I hope this video was helpful. Please comment below any questions, comments, anything, feedback. We would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video helped you.